of analytics do you provide your marketing leaders or clients prior to planning? And what do you wish you could provide?
Oftentimes, the metrics I'm providing to my marketing leaders are based on the past. A lot of times it could be, maybe the past email performance, or we're looking to send an email based on, a previous list of people we sent it to, or even things like leads. Like it could be, we expected this many leads from this landing page we had before. And a lot of times I feel conflicted with this type of reporting because I don't know if actually I do know it doesn't tell the true full story of that customer journey. And I have a recent example even of where we had a landing page and, we're driving people to it, and everyone's just so focused on the leads. Sometimes I like to think of beyond the lead, what are the other metrics we could be looking at? Like, is this, first of all, is this even a lead gen campaign? When you really look at what you're doing, that's number one. But beyond that, are there things we're overlooking? Like, even if they went to the page and they didn't fill out the form, what else did they do on the site? Are we looking at where they went next versus did they just die on that page? Are we looking at the channels that are driving people to that page? Because maybe we're driving the wrong traffic to the page to begin with, and that's what's affecting the leads. So I think there is so much more that I wish I could provide as additional insights beyond just looking at traffic, leads, yes or no.
Yeah.
It depends, right? Like the really, like, what stage are you coming into the company at? And like, what are you coming in to clean house? Are you coming in there to basically like repurpose all of the legacy technology? Are you coming in there as an early adopter to the company? Like, are you like the first individual? So then if you're like the first person or in the whole team, obviously your metrics are going to look a little bit different. You're not going to have as much metrics. So for me, it really depends on when you come into an organization. For me, I'm coming in a later, more established enterprise organization where they have a set of fields that you can already look at all the data. Like for me, I looked at how much contribution can I give that will drastically impact the revenue for the company, and what is that really going to do and move the needle. So the biggest move to needle is expansion of relationship of like pitches or like opportunities to basically cross-sell and upsell our services to other individuals. And so that's what I see. That's all of my, like all of the stuff that I'm basically doing now is, okay, here is, we're closing, pitches to matters or opportunities open to win at this percentage. We can increase it by 10 to 15 more percentage. And these are the different types of campaigns and technology that we can do to basically align ourselves to get there. And so that's how I prepare myself to have those strategic conversations. What do I wish I could provide for them would basically be like, for me, it's trying to get more optimization for each tool. So I would love to measure the change management of how people adopt each tool. I mean, I can look at how they're using the tool and like the fields and the different types of fields that people are selecting and how long they've been on the platform. But I would love to see like the psychological aspect of, can I like measure how easy it is for them to understand the process? Like, are they conceptualizing are they actually doing the process that I've given them? So more into like change management metrics is something that I wish I had more information on. And also like the return on investment of the tools that I have, like, because it's not so, a lot of it is kind of like, kind of subjective and in the air. Like I kind of have a hunch feeling that this is working, but no one has the time to say, okay, objectively, these are the metrics that are the tools that are being used objectively. And like, I wish I had more time to do that type of information, and where it kind of falls, like where people are falling in the process. That's what I wish. Like I knew more of analytics. Like the change management part, and also like
Yeah.
usage of tools. How much money are we really utilizing for each tool? I just have so
Yeah.
much tools that I'm like, I don't have the ability to go through every single one and go like, all right, this has a return on investment of like 2%, you know, like I just don't have that time.
Yeah.
So I wish I had more of that, because then I could basically optimize it.
Yeah, so I think that depends on the type of planning that you're doing. There's the campaign planning and the demand gen focused piece, which for us is more so looking at what do we think that marketing needs to be responsible for next year in terms of generation and influence on pipeline. And so typically what we're looking at there is our previous metrics have been based on things like influence and where does marketing come in relation to our target? Then where do we see ourselves growing as a business next year? So if we want to see ourselves be a 30% year over year grower and that's our baseline, that's what we're going to base all of our numbers off of and just start to work backwards from there and say, okay, if this is sales goal and we expect marketing to influence X percent, then we need marketing to also source X amount in order to be successful. Great. Where did we come in this year and what do we need to do to get there? That's where you start looking at your actual campaigns and your performance and seeing what's working and what is completely not working that we just need to not do. Because how you're allocating those dollars and what you're getting out of them matters as you're looking forward and developing that plan. You always want to save room for experimentation, trying new things, doing those things that you just don't know about. There's always going to be the brand piece too that you're never really going to be able to tie back. But when you get into the meat of, are there certain trade shows that you've gone to? Those are huge budget sucks. And if you're not getting the right audience or seeing any traction after the fact, get rid of them. Do something different. Or if they are really successful for you, do more or find ways to add on to that experience. So that is the piece that we're looking at right now when it comes more to the spend planning and planning for what our targets are. That is something we have a lot of good data on to be able to work with, which is fantastic. The piece that I wish that we had a little bit better in that is some of the customer lifetime value pieces that come after the fact. And part of that is we have a very long deal cycle. So that's a little bit trickier for some of those where it may be 9 to 12 months or even up to 2 years before you close a deal. So when you're looking back at even 2023 data to try to plan for 2025, in some cases for us, that's not always going to be able to be something that we can leverage to the best of our abilities. So there's a little bit of that, time to value or customer lifetime value piece that is just the nature of our business model. The other piece that we're working on in terms of budget planning is technology spend. And that is a piece that I'm considerably working with each of the teams to find out what their hiring forecasts are within the sales team, for example, or within the marketing team. If you're looking at something like a Marketo or HubSpot or something where your sales team is going to have access in Salesforce, there are seats that you need to account for. So being able to understand the growth of the business in terms of hiring and your seat allocation helps you to be able to plan your spend for that. The other piece, of course, is what is the roadmap for tools and technologies? So are there things that are looking to be consolidated? Consolidation is a big thing in a lot of orgs right now. That's going to change your spend. It's going to change your training plans. It's going to change your marketing campaign execution. So being able to incorporate that in how you're planning not only your budget, but your year and your strategy around the technologies too. That the technology doesn't drive the strategy drives the technology, but they go hand in hand. Both pieces really need to to be understood, to do the best of your abilities, and being able to have that solid foundation in place.
For me, I want to like break it down like a little bit one step further, because I feel like the different teams that we support require different metrics. Our Ricardo marketing ops supports, pretty much the entire org. But just quickly for like a few channels, for like organic, paid, and events. Specifically for our organic channel, we care about the entire end-to-end funnel. So what that looks like is like from lead to a high fit to a meeting scheduled, meeting attended, opportunity, all the way down to like revenue. One also really important thing for us there is actually the lead response time. We really thrive ourselves on having like a 5-minute SLA. And so we really make sure our SDRs are within that response time of submitting a technical request. That's for organic. For paid, it's pretty similar, but we also look at like the cost per lead metrics, cost per op, return on ad spend. For paid specifically, we also try to break it down on like the campaign level. So like, hey, like this campaign, what is the performance down the line? And we also take it one step further. We like show you, hey, this ad, this copy, or this content drove X amount of pipeline and X amount of revenue. And so all of this is kind of broken down by like region and sales team. And lastly, just to kind of finish it off for events, we track like registrations, attendance by sessions, and then same thing like pipeline to revenue. But specifically for events, we want to go into the meeting and show like, hey, like this event influenced this amount of opportunities, helped accelerate the deal velocity of like this amount of deals. And then furthermore, like the increased usage for current customers, right? If we're meeting with a current customer, like, hey, after this event, their usage of automations actually went up 10%, 20%, right? So those are all some good metrics we like to track. One thing I wish I could provide is on the website level, there's like reverse IP for accounts. I would really like to get it on like the persona level, on like the person level, like, hey, like Michael from Ricardo is visiting your website, like go reach out.
You want to be super stalker, super stalker.
Super stalker, exactly. I think technology's not there yet, but that would be really cool.
From a MOps standpoint, I like to provide, prior to planning, previous efficiencies and efficacy of campaigns, right? Like, so how efficient were we on the campaign? Did we blow a bunch of dollars on content syndication and get like no return on investment?
As per usual.
And then like, how effective were they? Like when we did get in the door, were we able to progress people further down funnel, right? And I think providing that upfront sort of benchmarking data helps us to go off in these wild creative CEO wants to do this big thing. And like, I heard this new tech and this new thing. It's like, whoa, we have a benchmark. We should do these things based on historicals and then look at experimenting here because we're noticing kind of a trend there. What do I wish that I could provide in the future? And so I'm really big on kind of this idea of being able to understand things like sentiment and kind of the interconnectivity of like our channel approach, right? Like, so if I could say, hey, of the combinations of channels that we work in, like these people, mutually exclusive, have all had these different components, similar to how we do like account based. Like, hey, if we have like these decision makers at a company, we're like more likely to close. And it's like, all right, cool. So based on channel performance, like if they have these different components, like we're most likely to have like success looking at totality of customer journey. If I can get dark funnel, like let me get dark funnel sentiment, like in kind of the MOPS Unplugged, like the group chat that Uptempo has, right? Like if I can get any of that sentiment, anybody talking about my brand and kind of these things, like I would love that. So that's my desired report.
I've been contemplating this question a lot because it's, I think, a challenge, right? You can only measure what your strategy is. To your earlier point about a campaign, like you can't sit down and say, I'm going to choose to check out pipeline growth for the year. Or I'm going to check, like, I think there needs to be, I know they call them vanity metrics, but I want to call them like sort of the, they're almost like the life, like the core lifeline pieces. What is your heart rate? What is the machine of marketing doing right now? How is it performing? What does that look like year on year? So like we're all into biometrics nowadays. Like we all know how many steps or where our heart rate is, right? It's the same thing with marketing. There should be that base set of like, this is how all of your content and your day-to-day stuff is working. Now you got to think about, what are you trying to push? Is it you're trying to push cross-selling? Are you trying to push like a deeper vertical sell within a certain industry? Are you trying to widen, like land and expand within an enterprise? Those are all different metrics. And then how you go about budgeting that. I think that's also important, because everything has to go back to your dollars. So, you know, if that plan is just for brand awareness, that's going to be a little bit more fuzzy, right? Because that's more about, are people aware of your name? Whereas are you now tactically trying to get them over to demand gen, or in my world is challenging, it's relationships. So how many relationships, how many touch points, how much conversations are you having? Are they expanding? Are you speaking to more people? So you're going to look at sort of an account-based sort of metric, where you're going to be looking at number of touches and frequency of touches to those accounts with more CRM type of data. So I think it really comes down to individual approach and strategy, and making sure you're tying that back when you launch them to metrics that make sense, that tell the story of the success or the need to adjust those campaigns. I mean, it's nice to be like, oh, you definitely have to do this and this, that. Like, we're all limited teams. Why are you going to go try and like build these amazing, crazy dashboards if they're just not going to be leveraged? You do have to be tactical. You have to go after what exactly is the organization doing, and how are you measuring that? I think it's so important too, to get some level of detail into your budgets. I think we are overly complicating every single line. How much did I spend for Google for this one campaign? How much did I spend with this one campaign? Honestly, your actual is going to tell you the same story, because you're going to pay that in your planning as well. So like, if you know that generally you want to spend X amount of dollars on this like brand campaign or the search terms, and this amount on your LinkedIn search terms, and this campaign is going to get a full budget of X, like, I don't know. I'm starting to like sort of go the opposite way, where I don't think we need to be that crazy detailed into like all the minutia of every single line of spend. I think you need to look at it as a collective. How impactful was it? And I think we're coming to the end of attribution too. I mean, like all the craziness with like cookie determination and like all the different things. I'm like, I just think it's going to be even harder to try and, if you don't have it already set up, to pinpoint what thing caused this purchase or this reaction. I think we need to just continue to really be marketers and think about, are we getting our brand message out there? Are we getting people to the sales team? And are they the right people? And if not, we got to make an adjustment and make sure that that new message is resonating.